I was doing a crossword puzzle on my porch when 3 black Escalades pulled into my driveway. 4 men in their 50s got out, expensive clothes, confident walks. One of them looked at me and started crying. "Bobby Sullivan?" he asked. I said yes. He said, "You lied to us in 1988. We know everything, and we came to make it right." I had no idea what he was talking about. Then he said a date and it all came back. Before we get into this, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from today. It was November 12th, 1988, a Saturday night. Cold, wet, miserable. The kind of rain that comes down in sheets and turns the roads into rivers. The kind of night where smart people stay home, and only fools and desperate souls are out on the highway. I was closing up Sullivan's Auto Repair, my shop on Route 64 between Raleigh and Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Small place. 2 bays, a cramped office with a coffee pot that was older than most of my customers' cars, and an apartment above where I lived alone. The neon sign out front, red letters spelling Sullivan's, had been flickering for 3 weeks. I kept meaning to fix it, but there was always something more urgent. Always another engine that needed attention more than that sign. I'd been a mechanic for 26 years by then. Learned it in the Army, working on supply trucks and jeeps in the Mekong Delta. Came back from Vietnam in '69 with shrapnel in my leg and oil permanently under my fingernails. Opened the shop in '74 with money I'd saved and a dream of being my own boss. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My wife Melissa had died 2 years before, in the spring of 1986. The disease took her in 6 months. We didn't have kids. She couldn't, and we'd made peace with that. It was going to be just us, growing old together, maybe taking that trip to the Grand Canyon we'd always talked about. But cancer doesn't care about your plans. After she died, the shop became everything. I worked 7 days a week for the first year. Couldn't stand being in the apartment upstairs where her coffee mug still sat on the counter, where her reading glasses were still on the nightstand. The shop was easier. Cars don't ask how you're feeling. They just break and you fix them, and there's a beginning, middle, and end to every problem. By November 1988, my routine was to work 6 days a week and go church on Sunday, not because I was particularly religious, but because Melissa had been, and it felt like keeping a promise to her. Then back to work Monday morning. I was locking the front gate around 10:30 when I heard it, an engine sputtering, coughing, then nothing. Silence. Just the rain hammering on the metal roof of my garage. A van rolled to a stop right in front of my shop. Old Ford Econoline, white paint peeling, rust eating the wheel wells. The kind of van that had seen better days about 10 years ago. 4 guys got out, young, early 20s maybe, soaked to the bone in seconds. One of them, a black kid with a leather jacket and an afro, ran up to my gate. Sir, please, is this a garage? Our van just died." I looked at him, looked at the 3 other kids standing in the rain. They looked scared, desperate. "Yeah, it's a garage," I said. "But I'm closed." Please," the kid's voice cracked. "We've got a show in Raleigh, tonight. We're a band. This is our first real gig. We drove from Atlanta. If we don't make it—" He trailed off. I looked at my watch. 10:30. Raleigh was 40 minutes away. If they had a show, they were already late. I sighed, unlocked the gate. "Pull it into the bay," I said. "Let me take a look." They pushed the van into the garage. I could tell right away it wasn't good. The engine wouldn't even turn over. I popped the hood, started checking. While I worked, they stood there dripping on my concrete floor. The black kid introduced himself. "I'm Dennis," he said. "Dennis Johnson. This is Dave, Ray, and Tommy." Dave was quiet. Ray looked nervous as hell. Tommy was trying to smile through the panic. "We're the Breaking Point," Dennis said. "That's our band name. We play rock, soul, little bit of funk. We've been grinding for 2 years, man. Playing bars, weddings, whatever. This gig tonight? It's at a real venue. A&R guy from a label is supposed to be there. This could change everything for us." I didn't say anything. I was too busy looking at their transmission. It was gone, completely shot. The gears were stripped. The fluid was black sludge. The whole thing was held together by hope and duct tape. This wasn't a repair. This was a rebuild. Maybe 8-9 hours of work. Parts I didn't have in stock. I stood up, wiped my hands on a rag. "How much money you boys got?" I asked. They looked at each other. Tommy pulled out his wallet. Counted. $47, he said quietly. $47. For 4 guys who drove from Atlanta to North Carolina. That was gas money. Food money. That was all they had in the world. I looked at them. Really looked at them. They were kids. Soaking wet. Shivering. Dreams bigger than their bank accounts. I'd been that kid once. Different dream. Same desperation. I made a decision. Alternators acting up, I said. Probably from the rain. Sometimes water gets in there, makes it slip. I can tighten it down, clean the connections. Should get you to Raleigh. Dennis's eyes went wide. Seriously? How much? No charge, I said. Give me 20 minutes. They didn't know I was lying. I sent them to wait in my office where it was warm. Told them there was a coffee pot. Help yourselves. They disappeared upstairs, talking fast, relieved, already planning their set list. I went back to the van. 20 minutes. I'd said 20 minutes. I had maybe 7 hours of work ahead of me. I had a Ford Econoline in the back lot. Same model. Same year. I'd bought it for $400 2 months earlier, planning to part it out and sell the pieces. The transmission was good. Everything else was junk, but the transmission was solid. I rolled up my sleeves. I worked through the night, pulled the dead transmission out of their van, pulled the good one out of my parts vehicle, swapped them. It's not a simple job. You're under the vehicle on your back on a creeper, bolts everywhere, transmission fluid leaking down your arms, your hands going numb from the cold concrete and the autumn chill that seeped through the garage walls. The first hour was just getting the old transmission loose. 42 bolts. I counted every one. Some of them were rusted, seized from years of salt and road spray. I had to use the impact wrench on 3 of them, and even then they fought me. My shoulders burned, my back ached. At one point I dropped a socket wrench and it clattered across the floor, and I lay there for a minute wondering if this was stupid, if I should just wake them up and tell them the truth. But I didn't. I got the dead transmission out around midnight. It hit the floor with a thud that sounded like a death knell. 300 pounds of destroyed metal and shattered dreams. I rolled it aside with a pry bar. Then I went to the back lot. The parts van was sitting there in the rain, water streaming off its dented hood. I'd bought it at auction 2 months ago for $400. Planned to strip it down, sell the engine to a rebuild shop in Durham for $250, sell the transmission for maybe $175, part out the rest. I could probably make $700–800 total if I was patient. Now I was about to give it all away to 4 kids I'd never see again. I popped the hood, started the extraction. This one fought me too. 42 more bolts, more rust, more struggle. Rain dripped through a hole in the garage roof I'd been meaning to patch, hitting my forehead every 30 seconds like a metronome counting down my stupidity. Around 2 in the morning I got the good transmission free, rolled it on the creeper toward their van, lined it up, started the installation. This is the hardest part. The transmission weighs more than most people can lift, and you have to hold it at exactly the right angle while you guide it into place and start the bolts by hand. 1 degree off and it won't mate with the engine. Your arms shake. Your back screams. You start making deals with God you know you won't keep. I thought about Melissa while I worked. She used to stay up with me when I had late jobs, would sit in the office reading her romance novels, occasionally coming down to bring me coffee or just to check that I hadn't crushed myself under a car. She worried about that. Used to make me promise I'd be careful. "Bobby Sullivan," she'd say, "you're the only husband I've got. I need you in one piece." I wondered what she'd think of this. Probably call me a soft-hearted fool. But she'd smile when she said it. By 4 a.m., the transmission was in. All 42 bolts torqued to spec. I filled it with fresh fluid. Had to use my own stock, another $40 gone. Reconnected the drive shaft, the shift linkage, the wiring harness. Every connection had to be perfect. If I messed this up, They'd break down again in 50 miles, and this whole night would be for nothing. I took my time, triple-checked everything. At 5:30 I started the engine, let it idle, shifted through all the gears with the van on jack stands, watching the transmission case for leaks, listening for grinding, feeling for vibration through the floor. Nothing. Smooth as butter, maybe smoother than it had been when it rolled off the Ford assembly line in 1979. I shut it off, lowered the van. Sat down on the floor with my back against my tool cabinet and closed my eyes. My hands were bleeding in 3 places. My shirt was soaked with sweat and transmission fluid and rain that had dripped through that hole in the roof. Every muscle in my body hurt. I was 42 years old and I felt 80. But the van was fixed. I washed my hands in the utility sink. The water ran red, then pink, then clear. Put Band-Aids on the worst cuts. Changed into a clean shirt from the locker in my office. Tried to look like I hadn't just worked for 7 hours straight. Around 6 a.m. I checked on them. Climbed the stairs slowly. My knee was killing me, the one with the shrapnel still in it. Opened the office door quietly. They'd fallen asleep. Dennis was on the small couch, curled up with his leather jacket as a blanket. Dave was on the floor with his head pillowed on that guitar case, one arm draped over it protectively even in sleep. Ray had his glasses off, folded carefully on the table next to him, sleeping sitting up in my desk chair. Tommy was sprawled by the window, snoring softly, his red hair sticking up in every direction. Kids. They were just kids. I stood there for a moment, watching them. The office smelled like old coffee and rain-soaked leather. The fluorescent light hummed overhead, the same sound it had made for 14 years. Melissa had bought that light fixture at a yard sale, said it had character. I told her it was junk. She'd been right. Everything in this office had her fingerprints on it. The coffee pot. She'd picked that out. The little plant in the corner that had died 2 years ago, but I couldn't throw away. The calendar on the wall, still showing April 1986, the month she died. I hadn't changed it. Couldn't bring myself to. I thought about waking them gently, letting them sleep another hour. They looked so peaceful, so young, like they didn't have a care in the world beyond their music and their dreams. But I knew the truth. Their show was long over. Their big break was gone. That A&R guy from Atlantic Records had probably already left Chapel Hill, had probably already forgotten about the band that never showed up. I shook Dennis awake gently. "Hey, time to wake up." He jerked upright, disoriented, looking around like he didn't know where he was. Then it hit him. The van, the breakdown, the show. His face crumpled. "What time is it?" His voice was rough with sleep. 6:15, I said. The others were waking up now, slowly realizing where they were, what had happened. "The show," Dave started. "You missed it," I said. There was no point in softening it. "I'm sorry. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but your van's running now. Runs real good, actually. You can head home or you can stick around Raleigh, see if you can reschedule with that record guy." The hope drained out of their faces like water from a cracked tank. Tommy sat down hard on the floor. Ray put his head in his hands. Dave just stared at his guitar case like it might have answers. Dennis stood up slowly. He looked older than he had 8 hours ago, older and sadder and tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "How much do we owe you?" he asked quietly. "For the work." "Nothing," I said. "Told you last night, alternator issue. Just cleaned it up, tightened some connections. Took a while to track down the problem, but nothing major." "Huh." "But you worked all night," Dave said. He wasn't stupid. None of them were. "We heard you down there, metal on metal, the impact wrench. That wasn't no alternator belt." I met his eyes, held them. "Sometimes it takes a while to find the problem," I said. "Sometimes you think it's one thing and it turns out to be another. Point is, it's fixed now. Don't worry about it." Dennis pulled out the $47. His hands were shaking. He held the crumpled bills out like an offering, like a prayer. "Please," he said, "take something. Anything. We can't just..." We can't take this from you. You don't even know us." "I know you drove 400 miles on a dream," I said. "I know you're young and broke and trying to make something of yourselves. I know that's worth more than $47. Keep your money. You're going to need it for gas home." They didn't want to leave. They stood around in my garage for another 20 minutes, miserable and grateful in a way that made me uncomfortable. They kept thanking me, kept offering money, kept asking if they could pay me back later, send a check when they got home, something, anything. Tommy wrote down my address on a napkin from my office, said he'd mail me money as soon as he could. I told him not to bother, but he folded that napkin carefully and put it in his wallet like it was precious. Ray shook my hand 3 times, each time like he was trying to find different words and couldn't. Finally just said, "Thank you," in a voice that broke on the second word. Dave didn't say much, just looked at me with these dark, intense eyes, like he was trying to memorize my face. Then he picked up his guitar case and headed for the van. Dennis was the last one. He stood in front of me, this young black kid from Atlanta with dreams I'd never understand, and he took both my hands in his. "I don't know why you did this," he said. "I don't know if you're just a good person or if you just felt sorry for us. But Mr. Sullivan, Bobby, I want you to know something." He paused, swallowed hard. "My father's a pastor, preaches at a little Baptist church in southwest Atlanta. Growing up, he always told me, 'Dennis, when someone shows you grace, real grace, you carry that with you. You remember it, and you pass it on.' He said that's how the world gets better, not through grand gestures or big donations, through small moments when one person helps another for no reason except that it's right." His eyes were wet. We were both pretending not to notice. "I'm never going to forget this night," he said. "I swear to God, man, I don't care if we never make it as a band. I don't care if we go home and break up tomorrow, and I end up working in my uncle's shop for the rest of my life. I will remember the mechanic who stayed up all night in the rain to help 4 strangers, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be that kind of person." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. "You take care of yourself," I said. "And don't give up on the music. You got something. I can tell." "You really think so?" His voice was so young, so hopeful. "Yeah," I said. "I do." They climbed in the van. Dennis was driving. He turned the key, and the engine fired immediately, purred like a cat. He looked at me through the windshield, and I could see him crying. Dave stuck his head out the passenger window. "What did you do, man? It's never sounded this good." I just smiled. "Magic." Ray leaned out from the back. "We're going to remember you." "Safe travels," I called back. They pulled out of the garage bay. The morning sun was coming up over Route 64, turning the wet pavement gold. The rain had stopped sometime in the night. The world looked clean, new. The van turned onto the highway. I watched the taillights grow smaller, watched them disappear around the bend near the Shell station a mile down. Then they were gone. I stood there in my garage for a long time. The concrete floor was still wet with puddles from where they'd pushed the van in. There were footprints everywhere, coffee cups in my office upstairs, the smell of rain and transmission fluid and desperate hope. I sat down on my work stool, the same stool I'd been sitting on for 14 years. The same stool Melissa used to perch on when she'd come out to tell me dinner was ready. I looked at my hands, torn up, bleeding through the Band-Aids, covered in scars from 42 years of working with metal and machines. These were the hands that had held Melissa's in her hospital bed, the hands that had closed her eyes when she finally stopped breathing, the hands that had worked through the night to help 4 kids I'd never see again. I'd lost $400 on that parts van, lost 7 hours of sleep, lost a night of my life. But I didn't feel bad about it. Not at all. Sometimes you help someone because you can, because it's right, because someone helped you once and you never forgot. Jim Davidson, who co-signed my loan. Dead now. I'd never really thanked him properly. Maybe this was how you paid that back. You helped the next person, and they helped the next, and somewhere down the line, the world got a little bit better. I went upstairs, lay down on the couch that still smelled like Dennis's wet leather jacket, closed my eyes, fell asleep within seconds. When I woke up 5 hours later, I convinced myself for a minute that I dreamed the whole thing. But then I went downstairs and saw the puddles on the floor, the discarded transmission pan in the corner, the empty coffee cups. It had been real. I got back to work, changed oil on a Honda, fixed a brake line on a Chevy, replaced spark plugs on a Ford pickup. Normal day, normal life. I never expected to see those kids again. Life went on. That's what it does, whether you're ready or not. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, the months into years. The seasons changed. Winters came and went. The flickering neon sign out front finally gave up completely in 1993, and I replaced it with a plain wooden one. Cheaper. Lasted longer. I kept the shop running for another 27 years after that night. Fixed thousands of cars. Fords and Chevys and Dodges and Hondas. Changed brake pads and oil filters and timing belts. Rebuilt engines and transmissions. Did the work. The world changed around me. Route 64 got busier. They built a McDonald's where the old diner used to be. The Jiffy Lube opened in 1997. Big chain, fast service, clean waiting room with magazines. I lost some customers to them. Not enough to hurt, but enough to notice. I thought about those 4 kids sometimes. Wondered if they made it. If they ever recorded an album. If they played any more shows. But I never looked them up. Didn't really know how. I didn't have a computer. Didn't care for all that internet business everyone was getting excited about. I still went to church every Sunday, like I'd promised Melissa. Sat in the same pew, 3rd row from the back on the left side. Pastor Reynolds asked about me sometimes. Asked if I was eating enough, sleeping okay. Good man. Meant well. I told him I was fine. I wasn't fine, not really, but I was functional. That was enough. Samantha, my niece, my brother's daughter, started checking on me more regularly after 2010. She was a nurse at Duke University Hospital in Raleigh. Divorced, no kids. Poured everything into her work. We were alike that way. She'd drive out once a month, sometimes twice, bring me casseroles I wouldn't eat, and lecture me about my health. She meant well, too. Everyone meant well. Uncle Bobby, she'd say, you can't live like this forever. You're getting older. You need to think about selling the shop, moving somewhere with people around. What if something happens and nobody finds you for days? Then nobody finds me for days, I'd say. I'll be dead. Won't matter to me. She didn't find that funny. By 2015, I couldn't pretend anymore. I was 71 years old. My hands were so arthritic some mornings I couldn't grip a wrench. The heart attack in 2014 had been a warning shot. Angina, the doctor called it, prescribed pills I couldn't always afford. My knee, the one with the shrapnel, had gotten so bad I limped everywhere, needed a cane on cold mornings. And the customers were gone. Most of them anyway. People wanted quick oil changes at Jiffy Lube or Valvoline. They wanted diagnostic computers and air-conditioned waiting rooms and mechanics who wore clean uniforms with their names embroidered on the pocket. They didn't want an old man working out of a garage that still smelled like 1974. I closed Sullivan's Auto Repair on a Thursday in March 2015, 41 years after I'd opened it. Didn't have a ceremony or anything. Just locked the gate one last time, turned off the lights, walked upstairs to the apartment that had been my home for 4 decades. A developer bought the property 3 months later. Wanted to put in a strip mall, Subway, Dollar General, one of those phone repair stores. But I negotiated to keep a corner of the lot. Had a mobile home brought in. Single wide, 12 feet by 60 feet, white with fake wood paneling. The developer threw it in as part of the sale price because he felt sorry for me. I lived on Social Security. $1,243 a month. It was enough if I was careful. Rice and beans. Cheap coffee. I watched TV shows I didn't care about. Read books from the library. Worked on a crossword puzzle every morning. Samantha worried about me constantly, Wanted me to move into one of those assisted living places. They have activities, Uncle Bobby, social events, people your own age to talk to. I don't want to talk to people, I'd tell her. I'm fine where I am. You're not fine. You're deteriorating. You're giving up. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had given up. After Melissa died, after the shop closed, what was left? Just waiting. Waiting for my body to finally quit, to rejoin Melissa wherever she'd gone. It was October 2023, 35 years after that rainy night. I was 77 years old. My health wasn't great. I'd had a heart attack the year before, spent a week in the hospital. Samantha wanted me to move into assisted living, but I refused. I wasn't ready to give up my independence. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting on my little porch drinking coffee, watching the cars go by on Route 64. Same road, same spot, different world. A convoy of black SUVs pulled into my driveway. 3 of them. Expensive, the kind of vehicles you see in movies. They parked in a line and the doors opened. 4 men got out. They were in their 50s, well-dressed. They walked toward me slowly, and there was something in the way they moved, like they were nervous. The black man stopped at the bottom of my porch steps. "Bobby Sullivan?" he asked. "That's me," I said. "Do I know you?" He smiled. It was a sad smile, a grateful smile. "Yeah," he said. "You do. You just don't remember." November 12th, 1988, Route 64. 4 kids in a broken van in the rain. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "Dennis?" I said. "Yeah?" He climbed the steps, extended his hand. "Dennis Johnson, and that's Dave Kowalski, Ray Carter, and Tommy O'Brien." I stood up, shook his hand. My heart was pounding. I looked at the other 3. They were crying, all of them. Grown men standing in my driveway, crying. "What are you boys doing here?" I asked. "We came to say thank you," Dennis said, "and to tell you that we know." "Know what?" "That you lied to us." We sat on my porch, all 5 of us. They told me the story. They'd missed the showcase that night. The A&R guy left before they could reschedule. It felt like the end, but they didn't give up. They kept playing, kept grinding. 3 years later, in 1991, they got signed to an independent label. Their first album dropped in 1993. It went gold. By 1998, they were platinum. By 2005, they were legends, the breaking point. They were one of the biggest rock bands of the 90s and 2000s. "We always talked about you," Dave said, "the mechanic in North Carolina who saved us. We wanted to find you, thank you properly, but we didn't know your last name. Didn't remember the exact location, just knew it was Route 64. Then in 1995, Tommy said, I took the van to a mechanic in Boston. He looked at the transmission and said, 'Whoever rebuilt this was a master. This is hand-tooled work, professional grade. Someone saved your ass, kid.'" Ray leaned forward. "That's when we knew. You didn't tighten an alternator belt. You rebuilt the whole transmission. You worked all night, and you told us it was nothing so we wouldn't feel like charity cases." I didn't say anything. My throat was tight. "We've been looking for you for 28 years, Dennis said. Then last month, Ray's daughter, she's a journalist, she found property records. Sullivan's Auto Repair, Route 64, closed 2015. Owner, Robert Sullivan, still living on the property." "So, here we are," Dave said. "You didn't have to come," I said quietly. "Yes, we did," Dennis said. "Bobby, you gave us more than a transmission that night. You gave us the ability to keep going, to believe that people give a damn. My father always said, when someone shows you grace, you pass it on. We've been trying to pass on what you gave us for 35 years. Tommy pulled out an envelope, handed it to me. "We're not here to embarrass you," he said. "We're here to honor you." I opened the envelope. Inside was a check. I looked at the number. My vision blurred. $500,000. "I can't," I started. "You can," Ray said. "And you will. We're also paying off your medical bills from last year. And we're setting up a trust that'll cover your living expenses for the rest of your life." You're never going to worry about money again." I couldn't speak. I just sat there, holding that check, tears running down my face. "There's more," Dennis said gently. "We bought the property next to yours. We're building a community center. Music programs for kids who can't afford lessons, instrument donations, scholarships. It's going to be called the Sullivan Center for Young Musicians. Because you started this, you're the reason we made it. And we want kids like we were, broke, desperate, dreaming, to have a shot." I couldn't finish the sentence. Dave put his hand on my shoulder. "You told us it was nothing, but it was everything. You lost money, lost sleep, lost a night of your life for 4 strangers. We became millionaires, Bobby. We've played for presidents, sold out stadiums, won Grammys, but none of that means as much as what you did, because you didn't do it for fame or credit. You did it because you felt it was right." They stayed for 3 hours. We talked about everything. Melissa, my wife, their families, the music industry, life. Before they left, Dennis gave me something else, a vinyl record, their first album from 1993. "Track 7, he said. "It's called The Mechanic. We wrote it about you. It's been on every album we've ever made in some form. You've been with us the whole time." After they left, I sat alone on my porch. I put the record on my old turntable inside. Let it play. The song was beautiful. Acoustic guitar, soft vocals, Dennis singing about a rainy night and a man who fixed more than a car. I'm 77 years old now. The Sullivan Center opened last month. I went to the ribbon cutting. There were 100 kids there, holding instruments, smiling, dreaming. Samantha cried the whole time. She couldn't believe it. I still live in my mobile home. I don't need anything fancy. But I'm not alone anymore. Dennis, Dave, Ray, and Tommy visit once a month. We have dinner. We talk. They're not millionaires to me. They're those 4 scared kids in the rain. And I'm not a hero. I'm just a mechanic who told a lie. But maybe that's the thing about kindness. You don't do it for the reward. You do it because someone's broken down on the side of the road, and you have the tools to help. You do it because it's right. And sometimes, 35 years later, the people you helped come back to tell you that the kindness you forgot about changed everything. If this story touched you, drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever been helped by a stranger? Or helped someone and never saw them again? I'd love to hear your stories. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories about second chances and the kindness that comes back around. Thanks for listening, and we see you in the next one.